Means I turn on the streaming. Good morning, everybody, from Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. It is Thursday, the 11th of October. We can almost say mid-month. It's 15 degrees here now because it's, well, it was 14 before. I have to be honest. 15 now, 1016.2 and steady. 3 knots of northerly wind, so that's helpful to us here in the North Island. About 50% thin stratus cloud, so it's not too bad a day here. Very different down in the deep south where the road to Milford from Tiana is closed with snow. There's poor pictures of the lambs covered in snow and blizzard-like conditions. Actually, even up the top part of the South Island, around the Marlborough Nelson area, it's pretty cold too. They've had snow down to 300 metres. So it's very, very different throughout the country at the moment, but that's kind of typical at this time of the year. All right, there is a lot on today with the weather, and I know there are a few people going to leave today. And David will certainly cover the conditions over the next while. Just a reminder, if you email us, could you please put your boat name in the subject line and the subject, you know, like Vunda to Opua or whatever it happens to be. So it just makes it easier for us to find things. I have got everyone sorted now. I think I've got my Excel spreadsheet back in business. So that I know who's going where and when and so on and so forth. But I know that I have missed, every now and again we get swamped with emails, and we try and get them all answered, but apologies if you don't get an answer. Just don't worry about sending something back again. But I think we're on top of it now. But just make sure that you put your boat name in the subject line, and then we can, you know, a lot of people will send something in 2 or 3 weeks ahead, and then it's if I haven't plucked it out and put it on my spreadsheet, then I miss it. So anyway, if you could help us out there, that would be good. We try and get everything responded to, but every now and again we do other things. So apologies for that. Okay, it is quite a noisy frequency here this morning for whatever reason, and what I might do is ask again just before past to see what the frequency is like. We might have to move to 8297. I keep forgetting about 8779, which is also dedicated to us, but and it's not too far to move, and I don't have to move the antenna position. But we'll see what 8297 is like, and if this one is a bit noisy, we've got those 2 options. Okay, moving on to, well, there was a couple of other things. I will just remind you that David has had a special request not to use the word sporty for this particular passage. So I've been looking around for a different word to use that uses 4 of the same letters. So instead of sporty, we will now use the word snotty. So that's sort of similar, but not quite so sporty, as it were. And he'll explain why either of those 2 words could be used for this upcoming passage. All right, let's move on to world news. Hurricane Michael, that's the rather large hurricane that's barreling up in the Panhandle. It's now a Category 4, and if it stays Category 4, it will in fact be the biggest size hurricane to actually hit the Florida coast there. So it's all been looked at with a little bit of worry. Winds are now sustained at 140 miles per hour. So it's not going to be very pleasant when it hits the Panhandle area there. It's going to hit Panama City, Florida, and they're expecting 13 inches of rain and a 13-foot storm surge. So it'll be a very busy afternoon for those folk down there.
You know, you have to be careful.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, I love the way people, these announcers, I call them the alarmists, talking about that's the biggest storm to hit that area. Well, that area is the Panhandle. That's the west side of Florida. Florida has had much stronger hurricanes hit it than this particular one. But because it happens to be on the other side, that gives them a chance to jazz up the newspaper and get everybody a little bit more nervous than they normally would be. They do this all the time. Drives me nuts. Here's the chief.
Boy, this frequency is pretty noisy, so if anybody wants to make a move, let me know now. Seeker, hello, Peter, go ahead, over. Okay, I've got that, amazingly. Just tell us what the wind speed and direction is, please, Peter, over. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not picking up the wind speed and direction. We have got quite a significant noise level here this morning. I'm amazed that it's not affecting you folk out there. We'll battle on, seeing as we're doing most of the talking, but it's very difficult to pick anything up. Just try once again with the wind speed and direction, over.
Wind speed 4 knots southeast.
Oh, got it that time. Thank you. 4 knots southeast. So you'll have the motor on, but it'll be a very pleasant way of entering New Caledonia. So just a bit of cloud over it, but boy, it's looking actually lovely in New Caledonia and Vanuatu this morning on the satellite picture. So you've had a good run. Okay, thank you for that. All right, and presumably you can still hear me, so that's good. We'll just battle on here, and I'll pause again in a few minutes. So clear with Seeker. Going to the United States now, Nikki Haley, who is the US ambassador to the United Nations, appointed by President Trump. She has resigned, effective in December. She was the governor of South Carolina. She's done a very good job there as the UN ambassador for the United States, and many are expecting her to make a run for the presidency in the next election, which will be interesting. So she has resigned, I guess, in preparation for that particular effort. So we'll watch that with interest. Okay, while we were talking boats, the report came in from the 2 boats at South Minerva, Flying Fish and Let's Go there. South Minerva is very calm at the moment, 10% cloud cover and less than 1 metre waves breaking over the reef, 1018 and rising. So thank you for that from South Minerva. And calm.
Good.
Yeah, David asked what the wind was. And Katinga is making a run for home. That at 3148 and 174. He's got 200 miles to go. So he's going to have an interesting 200 miles. He's got 15 knot winds down there. So hopefully all will be well with KP. All right, getting back to world news again. Actually talking about that, we won't be here in the weekend, of course, but we will be interested to get emails on what the conditions are like in the weekend. For those that are leaving today, or tomorrow, we'll be looking forward to hearing that. So keep us in mind. Tour de France trophy was on display in the UK, and it's been stolen. So Team Sky had won a few trophies, and they were sort of meandering through England, putting them on display, and somebody decided to help themselves to the Tour de France trophy. Over to Mallorca, who I know several of you boats have been at. Heavy rains and floods have caused a lot of devastation there, and at least 10 people have been killed. Just an amazing amount of rain all at once there. So it's not been all that great down that part of the world. well, it hasn't been good for a couple of people in the other parts of the world too. The Saudi journalist I talked about, who was missing after he entered the Saudi consulate to get his marriage documents in Turkey, evidently he was cut up with a bone saw and removed. So I guess you don't see him walking out when you get cut up in a bone saw and probably put in people's briefcases. US intelligence evidently intercepted some Saudi official communications that talked about capturing him. I didn't exactly talk about what sort of saw was being used, which reminds me of when David was going in for his bypass operation. He was sort of half drugged up, and as they were wheeling him away, he talked to the guy with the trolley, asking what sort of saw was used to cut through the breastplate. I thought that was a bit strange thing for somebody to be asking on their way to an operation, but there you are. Moving on to Venezuela, the man accused of trying to assassinate President Maduro has died after mysteriously falling from a 10-story window. I guess you would die. Though I don't know that it would be mysterious, but anyway, he died after falling mysteriously from the 10-story window. So that will solve having to find proof that he was the man who fired at Maduro from the drone, I think it was. And back here in New Zealand, an RNZAF, the plane that they use now for training, I've never actually heard of it. It's called a T-6C Texan 2. Anyway, two of the, well, I guess an instructor and someone else maybe, but anyway, two pilots on board had to do a valley landing at Ohakea a couple of days ago. Didn't actually get to the newspapers.
That's a tandem two-seater.
Tandem two-seater, is
yeah.
it? Okay, yeah. Well, it valley landed, and it looked actually in the photo that it was done very well, because it just crinkled the bottom a little bit when the wheels failed to come down. All right, we might have to pause on the world news, such as it is at the moment, to go on to the more interesting topic of weather, which, according to Lester on Obsession, passage weather at the moment is harder to pick than a broken nose. That's an interesting analogy, isn't it?
You wouldn't want to
so,
either one of you.
I don't think David. I wouldn't want to pick either one at the moment. All right, I just will do a pause to see if there's any reports on the propagation. I was just looking at what's going on here. Heatwave is looking to leave the Suva this morning, and they prefer the word energetic. Okay, that's a fairly long word though, 4 syllables. Goodness gracious me. And good morning to Q. All right, is there any report of the difficulty of hearing us? Otherwise, we will stay put on 8752. Nothing heard, so we've definitely got a little bit of radar noise here, but obviously it's just coming in here and not with you guys, so that's rather good. So what we'll do now is go on to the weather, and next week, folks, this is early warning, we will start 15 minutes earlier. We'll start at 7 o'clock and start the weather at 15:15. The sun is getting closer and closer, and conditions are changing a little bit, so we will start the net at 7 o'clock and go to 15:15. We have traditionally started at 7:15 because we started years ago when Jim on the Rag started his at 7 o'clock, and we wanted to give that 15 minutes run, but he's no longer there. Actually, if anyone's got any news of Jim, let us know. I think he's back in the States, but we will start the net at 7 o'clock as of next week, Monday. All right, with that, here's David.
Okay, good morning. We're going to start with the surface synoptic picture. The New Zealand depression is almost upon us here in New Zealand. By late today, the first of the fronts is going to reach the North Island, and that's going to be followed by a complex low system, and that's being supported, of course, by the 500 shortwave that we talked about yesterday. Now, those approaching the North Island, yacht-wise, will experience northerlies, 25 knots gusting 35 knots. Now, rain is expected to be quite heavy in this system. Friday, tomorrow, expect northwest 25 to 30 knots, and then they'll be backing to westerlies, and then we could expect a shift to south to southwest winds, 25 knots, going into Saturday. Now, those of you at Minerva, and thank you for the report, I had it down as light and variable this morning, and that's pretty much what you've got. Hopefully by later today, maybe around dinner time or so, the wind should organize, and I think they probably will be north to northeast at that point. But don't hold me to that. The isobars are few and far between there, so it's very difficult to ascertain a direction. Now, by Friday lunch tomorrow, expect northerlies shifting to late northwesterlies. I say northwesterlies, give a take on that. Saturday morning, though, we'll see a shift to south to southwest. And on Sunday, a definite shift. We're looking at southerlies at 20 knots. So that's going to be smack on the nose if you are off to New Zealand. And of course, all of this is due to the Tasman high, which at the moment is about a 1037, 1037 millibar. Now, the eastern side of the high is getting squashed, if you will, by the depression that is currently just about over New Zealand, but by Sunday is going to be east at around 170 west. So it's going to scoot to the east a little bit, slow down slightly, and it's going to hold back that high that's in the Tasman. And so that's going to cause a squash north and south. That would be along about 175 and the date line up and down that line. Now, these southerlies are going to run from New Zealand all the way up to Fiji and Tonga, and that'll be Sunday at around lunchtime. Now, on Monday, the Tonga or Minerva yachts at roughly 25 south are going to be seeing 15 to 20 knots south-southeast to southeast. Between 170 east and the date line, southeast winds are going to be 20 to 25 and possibly higher gusts. And again, this is all thanks to the strong Tasman anticyclone. Now, for most of the yachts that are heading to New Zealand, by Tuesday, I'm jumping around a little bit, by Tuesday the 16th, so in other words, next week, 16th, and if you're between 25 south and 30 south, you should see easterlies, about 25 knots gusting to 30. And on Wednesday, the 17th, still easterlies between 25 and 30 south, but they're going to be easing a little bit to about 20 knots. I do see the start of a polar dip on the northwest corner of this high, just south of New Caledonia, but as I look at other models and get this model extended a bit, it more or less fades, and that's pretty good news. We did not want to see a depression forming on that. Now, here in New Zealand, from today right through Saturday, we'll have cyclonic winds, and they'll all be part of the complex depression. Remnants continue to annoy the South Island right through the weekend, of course. Now, yachts between 30 south and New Zealand, you could expect south to southwest winds about 20 to 25 knots. That's in my opinion, not necessarily what the models are saying. You could expect cloud showers and squalls. That's pretty much what I think for that. That isn't very pleasant looking, that's for sure. The high remains in the Tasman, and it's still going to be around 1035 millibar. But there is still that swash zone up and down 175 east from 30 down to New Zealand. Actually, it goes further than 30 to the north. Now, on Sunday around lunch, this high, the Tasman high, looks to be near 35 and 160 east, 35 and 160 east. Thus, the winds up and down 175 east are going to be south-southeast about 20 to 25 knots. Up and down the date line, you're looking at southerlies about 20 knots, maybe 20 to 25 knots. Okay, well, Monday now. Monday is what? 15th, yes. There may be some relief, if you will. The high, still in the Tasman, grows a little bit. It is looking to increase to about 1038 millibar, 1038. This is very, very strong. The winds 25 south to about 33 south. We're looking at east-southeast 20 to 25 knots. Right near New Zealand, not so bad though. Southeast about 15. And on Tuesday, I see easterlies from the islands, way up there, Tonga, Fiji, all the way down to 33 south. Easterly winds. Now that's a good direction, but they're going to be fairly fresh, about 20 knots, and gusts, I would say 25 to 30 knots, as the high remains still strong at about 1035 millibar. And Wednesday is going to be a repeat of Tuesday. I'm going to jump to the tropics now, briefly, with our persistent trough that's over the Solomons, passes through the Santa Cruz Islands, skimming very, very weakly over northern Vanuatu up in the Banks area. Not much cloud, not much in it at all up there in northern Vanuatu, which is good. Another trough runs from Tuvalu to Tokelau, and that goes to the southern Cooks. And the tropical disturbance is still there. It's winding down a little bit, but it's still active. And now, of course, we have the trough that's still over Fiji, Rotuma, northern Tonga, and Niue. So quickly looking at Tonga, the trough has lifted quite a bit to the Vavau area and continues on to New Potatoes, Nui Tupatapu. The rest of the group looks pretty good with just scattered cloud. This is looking at satellite imagery. So the winds by lunch, southeast 15 or so. On Friday, east-southeast about 10 to 15, although Vavau might be a little bit stronger, 15 to 20. And on Saturday, we'll see a shift to northeasterlies. So pretty decent wind shift for Saturday. Now, Fiji's trough, as we said earlier, is weakening, but cloud does remain. So you could expect scattered showers throughout the day. The Lau actually looks pretty good this morning on satellite imagery. Not very much cloud there from what I could see. Now, the winds for Fiji, light to moderate. Expect east-southeast to southeast about 10 to 15 right through lunch. Friday, even better. East to east-southeast, maybe 10 to 15. Very, very tempting for departure now, isn't it? Saturday, the winds are going to veer to the southeast, and they'll be in the 15-knot range. Over to Vanuatu, and, well, that looks pretty good. Finally, pretty nice looking at satellite imagery. Wind-wise, expect easterlies about 15 knots by lunch and east-southeast by dinner. On Friday, east to east-southeast, mainly 15 knots as well. And overall, pretty good conditions for Vanuatu. And over to Newcastle, not bad on imagery either. Scattered cloud about. The winds are a bit peculiar this morning. Our southern lagoon and Ile de Pan, looking at northeast winds about 10 to 12 knots. But near Noumea, southeast winds quite light. And Friday, northeast, fairly light for the southern lagoon, but northwest winds near Noumea, but southerlies a little bit further north of Noumea and outward to the outer reef. So the winds are all over the place. Now, Saturday, we could expect southeast winds about 15 knots, but watch out for Sunday. Here's an early warning. Watch out for Sunday. I see southeast 20 to 30 knots out of the southeast. So that's a pretty radical change in wind speed. Okay. Lastly, jumping to those yachts that are departing soon, those that are leaving Fiji on Friday. But it's pretty funny, actually. Now we're hearing that many yachts are going today. Maybe they heard about our Friday, the bad luck Friday. I don't know. Anyhow, quite a few are going today. But anyhow, what I've done is when I started putting this together, I was thinking mostly Friday. But you could expect southeast winds just south of Kundabu, about 10 to 15. Very, very nice, very tempting. Saturday, they're still going to be southeast about 10 to 15. Sunday, though, the winds start to pick up. Still southeast, but they're going to be in the 20 knot range, and they're going to be picking up to 20 to 25 knots. On Monday, as you continue south toward the 25 degree latitude, expect southeast 25 knots or so. Tuesday at 25 south, east-southeast about 25, and there's going to be areas of 25 to 30. On Wednesday, also near 25 south, 20 to 25 knots, but further south the winds look to ease just a little bit to 20 knots, and at 30 south I could see 15 to 20, mostly easterlies. So that's a fair amount of wind, folks. Tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline this passage in a more coherent fashion for you, and I'll devote most of the report to the passage. Of course, we'll look at the islands for the weekend weather, the wind speed and direction for the islands, but we'll pay particular attention to the passage itself. Sounds like quite a few boats are on their way or starting on Friday, and off you go. So we'll get you up to date tomorrow. That's it. Any questions come now? Here's the chief.
All right. Well, if anyone has any trouble hearing that, let us know, and we'll, if need be, do a repeat on another frequency. But other than that, I think everybody has got the picture there. Just a few reports from, we've got a message from Margie about 8752 just coming on streaming, so a bit noisy at the marina, but that is to be expected. Lovely, a beautiful day in Uvea by the look of the Alcyon report. 6 knots of east to southeast, 1012 and 20% cloud cover. Looks pretty good down there in Falanga. Anna, KC is at 2224 and 17532 east. I presume you heard all of what David was talking about, so you will make your decision on the basis of that. That's about it, I think. Nothing much more. Over there on the west side of Fiji, thank you, John. 1014, 60% light cloud and light winds at Bunda. And, that's about it, really. Okay, is there any questions that I can hear? That might be the challenge for us this morning. Any questions, comments, or otherwise, please call. Someone came up just at the end there, and if I have any relays, let me know. Malua, and I presume you're tucked into a nice little anchorage in New Caledonia, Harry. Okay, it's not very good signal from you this morning, but I think I heard a thanks for the weather en route. Where are you? Where are you? Over. Got it. Thank you very much. All right. I'll have a good time there. Don't eat too many croissants. All right. A question for David on the waves. I know those winds are going to cause a bit of sea state. Are there any major concerns about waves leaving on passage Friday or Saturday? So
I haven't looked. But
haven't looked. So it looks like he might have that little job to do. He can look. Are you going to look now? Yes, he's going to look now. All right. So I'll just see if there's anything else comes through. Other than that, I think we'll. I know Margie is actually listening on streaming, so maybe I'll just leave the streaming on for a minute. Is there anything else? Sailing vessel, and I didn't quite. Is that Anna? Over.
Yes, Anna.
I've actually got you quite good, Casey, and I have your position from your email this morning. What have you decided to do? Over. Yeah, well, I got very confused with that, over. It's not all that good for giving too much information with the noise that we've got. And I think I've got your email that you said, and it looks like it's a little bit different from your position at the moment. So what I got from your email was that you were at 2224 and 17532, and that was, oh, I see, that's yesterday. All right, so you better start again. Just need to have a bit more clarity as where you are at the moment. Over.
Sounds good. I will re-email you for updated position. The big person is just waiting above the roll or continuing through the other side. So I will re-email you.
Okay, so your, if you could just give me your position now, just degrees only, over.
Position 23 south, 175.
Okay, got that, 23 south and 175 east. And did you hear all of the weather that David gave for the next few days, over?
Yes, I heard it. I recorded it, so I can re-listen to it.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just stand by one, and I'll just see if he's got anything to add. He's just going to look at the water conditions for the boats that are leaving in the weekend. Stand by.
The water conditions. Oh, it's wet. It's going to be wet. All right. Down there around 25 south on Sunday, assuming that you're tracking away, we're looking at about 4 meters. There is one area, a little bit, if you were to, well, I would say about 172 east and about 27, 28 south. There's a little area of 5 meters in there, but very small. But for the most part, the general area, 4 meters. But between Fiji or Tonga and 25 south, we're probably looking about 2.5 to 3 meters. 2.5 to 3 meters. And they'll be coming out of the southwest. Over.
Well, that was on streaming, so they won't get back to you, but I'd like you to move now to Anna, who are in a little bit of a sticky position. They are at 23 and 175 east, and this is of interest to other boats as well. 23 and 175 east, they're a 44-foot sailboat trying to get to Opua, and they're thinking about waiting it out, maybe around the 26 mark through Saturday, or just sailing south and let it pass and stay in the shadow of the North Island. So what would you think that we might do? 23 and 175 east at the moment. Hang on. No, but we can tell them what we might look at. Similar boat size to us, actually. Chameleon. Our boat's a 47-foot boat, and not a very fast one, and just usually 2 of us on board. In fact, always 2 of us on board. So David's just having a look out, and there was another question too about the arrival on the 20th, what the weather is going to be. So we'll just do things one by one at the moment.
Well, I gave the weather. I mean, yes. Come on. Well, I'm not sure what I could add to the weather conditions that I projected between now and next week. There's going to be quite a bit of southerly quadrant winds based on the high that's just not moving. It's not exactly a blocking high, but it's acting like a blocking high, moving very, very slowly. And because of the low and the way the upper levels are situated, it doesn't look like it wants to move very fast very soon. So you're going to be faced with just a fair amount of wind coming into New Zealand. Now, the only good part in all of this is that the depression will have moved off to the east. So you're not really going to be faced with anything of that nature, which is what we don't want to see coming into New Zealand. And the winds do get lighter as you get a little bit further south. This is looking at next week sometime. So I don't know where you will be and when you will be there. I don't really know how to explain what we would do. We probably wouldn't have gone on this trip, but the only choice that you've got being at 175, getting over to Minerva is going to be impossible. So you could forget about doing that. The only thing you can do is just to sail the best you can, keep the sail amount down. In other words, don't have a whole lot of sail up, and you're going to have to be doing some tacking probably. Either that or you're going to be on a beat, and just very slowly work your way down toward New Zealand. Tomorrow, I'm going to give another full report, and I'll include latitudes to give you areas of where the stronger winds are. But if you've written down what I've already given you, I don't expect too much change from that. So that, I'm afraid, is what you're going to have to do. You're stuck. I'm sure you don't want to turn around. Being that far south, I don't think we would do that either. So I would imagine just keep plugging along and tack the best you can and try to make the most of it. Over.
Now, could you look at Saturday arrival? Okay, and your signal is very good. Our noise has dropped off here now. You've got a very good, strong signal. It's always a good position around for getting a good signal to us around that 23 mark. What? And just before we leave, our session are asking about a Saturday the 20th arrival. What does the model look like? It's a long way away, of course, so we're stretching the ability of the models, but let's just have a look at what they say now, just for a laugh at what you might actually get on the 20th arriving in New Zealand, which is a Saturday.
The computer just decided to do a wobble.
The computer's doing a wobble, probably because I'm talking.
No, it's not because of that. Actually, that looks outstanding, a Saturday arrival on the 20th, if we could believe any of this.
Yeah,
I
nice.
see our high finally getting over to New Zealand. Still pretty strong. It's a 1032, but the good part is the center of that 1032 is going to be over the North Island. So you could have your choice of winds. It's going to be variable. Light and variable conditions. Over.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a good way to end today's broadcast. So we will leave you all to cogitate and ruminate, and we will be back tomorrow with the bigger wrap-up. It's big enough today, actually. It looks a lovely day today, and we're going to go shopping to get plants. Traditional in New Zealand is to do all your tomato plants and other sorts of things, popping them in the ground at Labour weekend, which is coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. And I think, sort of, close. Anyway, and it's certainly warm enough to put vegetables in the ground, not that they'll go in too quickly. So that's what we'll be doing today. All right, folks, we will be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. But do remember that next week we will be starting early. Have a good day, everybody. Cheers.